so you know, real, not getting any of that back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Isabella. Isabella Bonney. Thank you for coming out to Mania House and hanging out and gracing us all with your presence. The relaunch of the CloudCityConverse podcast, unscripted, unfiltered, unapologetic, and uncircumcised, as coined by his. I know you have a lot of stuff going on, but before we get into all of that, I just want to really talk about Germany.
Let's talk about Germany.
I want you to tell the people what you did in Germany, how much fun you had in Germany, and how much you loved it. Because I just want to watch your face light up as you talk about that experience.
So I've been a little familiar with WXW, and good brother Levi Shapiro sent me a post that said that they were looking.
I forgot to give you the microphone.
Ooh.
Yeah, I started throwing money, and I lost my focus. But that's all right, because we are unfiltered.
After all this time, I would think that you can keep focus with the money in the air. Gosh.
I have no idea what it is you're talking about.
So good brother Levi Shapiro sent me a post on Instagram.
Okay.
They were looking for independent videographers, documentarians to come out and capture the whole 16-karat gold tournament.
Okay. Which promotion?
WXW.
That's
yeah.
right. Okay. Gotcha.
And it seemed like a long shot, but I don't know. You probably have that experience sometimes where you just get that feeling that sinks into you where you're like, I feel like this is mine. And I try to stay humble, but like this one, I was just like, I have to do this. So I wrote up a pitch, called up Brian Zane, and I was like, we should see if they want to co-release this through your channel. It would be really cool. And
Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret. Shout out, Brian Zane.
The big boss, Brian Zane. And we sent it out to them and kind of just let it go at that point. And a couple of months go by. They want to meet with us for a Zoom call, see what we're all about. And I think the night before that, I just had this like crashing feeling of, what were you thinking? There's no way this will happen. And the moment that they called us up, they were like, we want you to do this. And I've never traveled internationally before. We put together a team with Zane, Levi, my partner in crime, Soja.
Shout out, Soja. We love you, brother.
We love you. Ringside Heat on Instagram. We do everything together. And we flew out there, and Germany was the kindest experience that I could have imagined. The WXW team, both in terms of the wrestlers that they have there, but also the production, so tight, so spot on, so well planned.
Which city was it in Germany? I'm not very familiar because I drank a lot in high school, and if the two girls were in geography class, I was not paying attention.
So this was in Oberhausen, which is close enough to Dusseldorf. Like we flew into Dusseldorf. We did not do a lot of exploring in Oberhausen. We went to House Union, great little hotel, great schnitzel, and we went to...
I've heard of such things. I've been called such things like great schnitzel, but I digress. I'm sorry.
Yeah? Oh, breaded meat? But we didn't
I don't even know how to respond to that, but go
and the tournament is unlike anything I had ever seen. The wrestling there was so dynamic and hard-hitting, but, like, you know, you see wrestlers here, and you kind of, I think a lot of people gravitate to, like, just like a guy with no tan, a little bit of chest hair going on, no knee pads, just trunks, bald with a beard, and just hits the shit out of
Gibson?
you. Yeah, real
okay,
Ricky
sorry.
Gibson.
I want to make sure I knew what you were talking about.
And I felt like there was something that was incredible about that. Throughout the course of the actual tournament, they had other shows running. They brought in promotions from both England and the U.S. West Coast was there, so we got to see a lot of our buddies. But they also had Ambition, which is their sort of shoot-style show that was kind of... I know that Brian Danielson was a big part of developing that, and I just highly would recommend looking it up. Yeah, jaw-dropping.
Okay. And how long were you guys out there for?
Gosh, we were out there for 5 days, 6 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we had one day to explore Dusseldorf, and the rest of the time we were just capturing everything. But we were given like full access to the show, which was really truly an honor that we were able to pull people aside and really tell their stories, sit in on production meetings, actually capture some of that, which for me is pretty unheard of. And like, I think for my editing process, it's going to be an exciting challenge to decide how much of the curtain that we decide to pull back. And obviously we want to work closely with them to keep what's sacred sacred. Sure. But, you know, we have all of the production happening. We have great interviews with like the light designer.
All those little facets that a lot of people take for granted.
Yeah, but like when you're actually experiencing the show, like part of what makes 16 karat gold feel so big is just the way that they've taken the venue and transformed it into entirely what feels like the highest level of indie production.
Beautiful. So you take that, right? You take what you got to experience there. You take what you've seen, right? Working, I mean, everywhere, to the best of my knowledge, and juxtapose that with what we're doing out here in Vegas this week. We mean y'all, because I'm not leaving Mania House. The hot tub is where I'll be. But like, how many shows have you been able to attend thus far? Are you going to be working any shows, or is this more just like a nice little kickback vacation time to breathe for you?
So this is my 4th Mania weekend working. The first one I shot like a couple matches on a show in Dallas, and then the second one was in LA. Time of my life. Got to work the early morning Guy Steele early morning show. One of the highlights of my life, really. But I think this time around, I've attended 3 shows so far, done some shooting for all of them. But I feel like a little less inclined to try to get in there, get on the feed for every single one of them. I think there just comes a point where, for me at least, I used to really be chasing like getting on the bigger show, and right now, like I think after this weekend, my desire to invest in making the promotions in Oregon the best they can possibly be with what I've learned traveling is where my mind's at. That being said, I got everything I wanted. Last year, Senka Aja Kong was the match of the weekend. Brings me to tears thinking about it, and to see how a year later that story continued with her facing Chris Hero in the West Coast show.
I heard about that and saw clips, as you all should. If you have not, treat yourself and pull some video footage of that.
And then you have that West Coast show. The show right afterwards, you have Senka Aja Kong 2, and Chris Hero comes out for her, starts cheering her on. She gets the pin on Aja Kong, unheard of.
Right.
And
talk about giving.
And then they tag together against Magenta after they turn on Aja Kong. It's just an incredible story, like beginning to end, and being able to witness that, and then being just like, you know, right over Chris Hero's shoulder with my camera is like that's an honor, and it's an honor that I get to capture that.
And speaking of honor and capture, if I'm not mistaken, because you know CTE and alcohol, did you indeed have the opportunity to document Chris Hero's comeback?
I did, and
Let's talk about that a little bit.
That was a wonderful experience. He and Brian Zane, go pretty far back, and so when he decided to make his return to wrestling, I had the opportunity to develop a mini doc on that, and I think one of the choicest things was that he faced Timothy Thatcher in his return, who I'm a big Thatcher fan.
As am I, as everyone should be. I mean, I call him Coach. I mean, he's never coached me, but I did a car run for one of the locals. I think it was for DOA, and picked him up, and he just started coach talking me. So every time I see him, I call him Coach. So super dope. I love Thatcher.
We love Timmy. But they have a long history together, and seeing how that was touched upon throughout the course of this return match, I mean, it reminds me like why I love wrestling, and how stories can be told across multiple promotions over years, over decades, and being able to get those moments like giving Rachel Ellering a kiss before he walks through the curtain, and then like you cut to like the live feed, seeing him walk through the curtain, and it's like you get to have that interior perspective, and then you also get to have all the fanfare. And I really like that I get to walk in and out of the curtain and be able to capture a little bit of both.
And I'll be honest with you, me as a friend, but also as a fan of your work, and one of the things that I do love the most about this business is the friendships that we build, the bonds. And you and I are close on so many different levels.
We know things we shouldn't about each other.
That's true. But to see the twinkle in your eye and as you start to tear up as you talk about what that meant to you, and knowing what it meant to you, right? It makes me very blessed to be able to see a part of someone who has given so much to the business unheralded, and again unscripted, right? So I'm going to keep the camera on you so they can see the tears when they come.
I am in fact uncircumcised.
Good for you.
Thanks,
because
brother.
I've heard that's a pretty shitty process
it'd be
for the
hard
ladies.
to go through it now.
Yeah.
So.
But no, ideally, just to be able to know that for someone who, and for a lot of the folks that are watching and people that see the shows from a certain perspective, don't necessarily know. You obviously know, I know, and I'm learning day by day how much goes into behind the scenes of making everything look as good as possible. And as we work towards the launch of Oregon Pro Wrestling and what we're all interested in doing is our own parts of making that promotion a huge success, I just want to say on behalf of every wrestler who you shot a promo pic for every wrestler or referee that you've helped craft part of our character development, for me specifically in working with me in every iteration of the King Naja persona, from the hitman to the pimp to the King Mac to everything else, to investing your time in me and in making my journey as fulfilling as possible. I thank you, and I love you for that, and I will always love you for that, and I really appreciate that. And I'm quite sure that if you query Derek Shaw, who's here cooking for us, or Darlin Dolly Durkin there, or Joey Thornton, who's in some form of alcoholic stupor, or even Crash, who was here earlier, or anybody else that has the opportunity to work with you, I think to a man, a woman, an individual, you'll probably receive the same amount of praise. And if I had flowers, I would give them to you, but I'm giving them to you now figuratively. Thank you for all that you do for the business. Thank you for all that you do for us individually and collectively. Thank you for the first time we had an opportunity to chat outside of the Eagles Lodge in Northeast Portland when I was going through some stuff and just felt compelled to spill my guts. And you were abundantly kind in allowing me to do so, which to me said a lot about your personality, the core of who you are. We've had some pretty really dope personal conversations, so I thank you for that. I honor those.
I treasure that moment because it was the first time really getting to know you. We'd met before, but you had all the girlies at the DOA show just clustered around you, like the women's circle. Yeah, no, you did. You gathered them all around you to seek counsel, and here you are on the other side.
Still needing counsel. So with that being said, let's transition off the warm and fuzzies and talk a little bit about the event of the week in WrestleMania.
Oh, jeez.
2 days of the Fed doing what the Fed does. Thoughts on matches, thoughts on what you're looking forward to see, thoughts on what you will not spend time watching, or anything you want to share about Mania at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be kind of a running story for anyone who is working in wrestling in any regard at a constant level on the indies, is that sometimes, like, when I'm done editing all of these shows, the last thing I want to do is watch wrestlers that I don't work with.
Sure.
But I think the pageantry of Mania is really fun, and I think watching it in a group with people who have wrestling experience, or
we can bury
just,
it together.
Yeah, no, just shit on everyone. But I think I was talking to Crash on the plane ride out here, being like, I should watch a little, like, build video or something to figure out what the fuck's going on. I've always been kind of like tied to the trajectory of Roman Reigns. Like, I think I got into wrestling as a Shield fan for the first time.
Oh, okay, righteous.
Yeah. I mean, not so much. I was like, I'm reading the fan fiction, but you know, it's a way. It's an entry point.
I've heard of such things.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, I mean, don't dig too deep into that. It's a dark world, but um, I think seeing Roman Reigns go from like such a high point to a low point, low point to making a meteoric rise again is it's a very interesting story. So like I'm always going to be interested in what he's doing. I think that there could have been a lot of potential for Randy and Cody, which is what Crash was touching upon on the airport. That there's a story there that maybe isn't being told, but maybe they'll be able to tell it in the ring. So,
Sure.
But I honestly just want to see my friends get wasted and watch WrestleMania from the hot tub. Like,
Hell
that's
yeah.
the real
That
choice
sounds,
shit, right?
That sounds like a plan, and it sounds like an excellent way to spend some time with friends. So, with that, thank you so very much for your time. I want to thank you again for all that you've done for the business and for everyone in the business. We are
my greatest
all
joy.
in a world that we all know is filled with darkness, specifically in pro wrestling, as you stated. You are a shining light. So I thank you, Izzy. I love you. I appreciate you. And we'll be back with more on the Cloud City Converse.